cats and kittens, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you issue number 57, Zatanna. And Zatanna, for those of you who do not know, is a member of the Justice League. She is their resident sorceress. She's not like your normal superhero. She doesn't really have superpowers necessarily. She has magical abilities, which I think makes her pretty unique in the DCU. She's also appeared on various television shows, including the Justice League animated series and Batman the animated series. She's also appeared in live-action format on the television show Smallville. For those of you who are familiar with that, it was a really cool appearance, finally seeing her brought to life. And like I said, she's a really interesting character. The figure itself is pretty nice. It's not one of the best, but it's definitely not one of the worst. But of course, we'll get to that after we look at the magazine, which will tell us pretty much everything we need to know about Miss Zatanna here. And then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. It actually is a pretty nice figure, as I said, not without its flaws, but we'll get there sooner rather than later, I hope. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy issue number 57 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Zatanna. First up, the character section. And it's here that we meet Zatanna Zatanna, who is the descendant of a nearly extinct offshoot of the human race known as the homo-magi, who are basically human beings born with the ability to connect with and manipulate what we know as magic. Shortly after giving birth to a daughter she would name Zatanna, Cinderella was apparently killed when she was involved in a car accident. Zatanna grew up in her ancestral home of Shadowcrest, learning from the finest magicians and homo-magi available. She even picked up her father's act and began touring around the country, but the whole while she was trying to find out what happened to both her father and her mother, studying all the texts in his library until she uncovered his diary. On the quest to find her father, she received help from Justice League members like Hawkman and Hawkgirl. After saving her father, she retired from superheroing for a while, turning her attention instead to her stage act, becoming one of the most successful magicians in the world. And then one night while performing on stage, Zatanna's outfit suddenly changed without warning. She recognized it to be an outfit her mother used to wear and knew that it was a distress call from Cinderella. Shortly after reuniting with her mother, Zatanna would unfortunately lose her father John when he, along with a group of other mystic superheroes known as the Conclave, repelled a demonic invasion. Zatanna decided to give up her stage career for a while and became a full-time member of the Justice League. It was revealed years later that during her time with the Justice League, Zatanna used her abilities to help alter the mind of the villainous Dr. Light after he somehow gained access to their secret headquarters, the Watchtower. She was also forced to use her powers on Batman after he discovered what they were doing and flew into a rage. She also turned Shadowcrest into a mystical academy where she could mentor and teach young magicians how to control their powers. After setting up Shadowcrest, she sought out Bruce Wayne in an attempt to make amends for what had happened years before on the Justice League Watchtower. Next, we look at a couple of Zatanna's classic stories. First up, JLA, Zatanna's Search. And this is a collection of all of Zatanna's earliest appearances, where we find her traveling the DC universe trying to find her lost father, Giovanni Zatanna. She crosses into other dimensions and travels to other planets, coming into contact with other heroes in the DCU along the way, like Green Lantern, Hawkman, and even Batman. Eventually, she finds her father and returns to Earth with him successfully. It's also interesting to note that it's one of the very first ever crossover storylines, and arguably one of the best. We also have Batman, Death, and the City. And this story opens with Zatanna traveling with her magic show to Gotham City just as the Joker escapes from Arkham Asylum once again. And we find her teaming up with Batman, who has severe trust issues with her after he has learned that she had once tampered with his mind on the Justice League Watchtower. The two overcome their differences, Batman actually saving her life after the Joker at one point slits her throat so she can't cast her spells. By the end of the story, they recapture the Joker and reconcile their differences. Zatanna's Friends and Foes section feature her parents, Cindella and John, and her cousin, Zack. And finally, the Original Thinking section continues the DC timeline with Part 48, The Spirit of Revolution. In the mid-1700s, it's discovered that there is still one last Atlantean outpost, a floating city known as Basilia. On July 4th, 1776, we see the very first appearance of the supernatural entity known as the Minuteman, the actual physical manifestation of the spirit of America. Around the same time, thousands of light years across the galaxy, in order to avoid war between the planets Apocalypse and New Genesis, the two rulers of those worlds trade their firstborn sons in a peace agreement. Here we have Zatanna, another, I think, pretty well-known character. She's on the new animated Young Justice cartoon show on Cartoon Network. She's been in a couple of video games, and she's been around the DC Universe for a good long while. And this figure, in my opinion, is very, very nice. It's not great, but it is very good. Pretty much everything about it I do like. I like this costume a lot. I really dig this version of it. It's playful, it's sexy, it looks like she's on stage, like something she would wear in her magic show. Love how she's tipping her hat. It is connected, but only barely. Love her hand, how her pinky there up on the hat is extended. It's really cool. All the buttons are detailed. Love that she has the wand in her left hand there. Fantastic touch. I like the little bow tie and the collar that she's wearing. Her hair is nicely sculpted, it flows down her back. Love the tails of the jacket that she wears, the tuxedo jacket that she wears. And she's got the really cool long boots on, those thigh-high boots, which I think are great, and they're nice, you can see, glossy black. So it's a lot of showmanship going on here. You can tell this is a stage costume that she wears, but she also wears it on occasion to superhero in. It's nice. It's kind of plain, which is why I say she's not an outstanding figure, but it's faithful to this look. And as you can see, I'm lucky I have a very well-painted face as well. It's a very attractive sculpt, too. She's a very sexy-looking figure. Talk about her a little bit more here in the next section. Zatanna stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of her base features her name and serial number. And so you can compare, here she is next to former student Mary Marvel, friends and allies Batman and Catwoman, and a nice group shot with every member of the Justice League of America that Eaglemoss has produced so far. So Zatanna is another really cool addition to the line, I think. It's nice to have another Lady Leaguer, and she is really good. Good, not great. She falls just short of being a really great figure, just because she is a little bit on the plain side, and there are some minor complaints I do have about this figure. We'll start, of course, with the good. I like pretty much everything about the figure, for the most part. I love the pose. I think it's playful. I think it's sexy. It looks like she's on stage performing. Love the way she's tipping the hat. I think the boots are fantastic. They're a nice glossy black. The fact that they have a heel on the sole is a really nice touch. I love the tuxedo tails on the jacket. Those are really, really cool, how they're coming up and off and away from her. I love the white gloves on both hands. It really makes them stand out. And the wand in her left hand is really cool. A great little touch to give her the wand. Again, the tuxedo jacket has great details, nice shading. You can see it's a flatter black than her boots. Also, her hair is really well detailed. It's big, it's flowing, it comes down her back, it's over her shoulders a little bit. Really, really well done. The top hat is a great detail. I like how she's kind of tipping it. Her hand is molded really well, too. You can see every digit, her thumb, her pinky extended. Really, really nice. Like how her head is kind of dipping down as she's tipping her hat. Love the bow tie and the collar, too. That's a really great touch. It makes it stand out somehow. It breaks up the figure, and it solves that pesky little neck problem they seem to have with the ladies, too, where the necks are usually too thick looking. This helps conceal that very, very well. I also like the white of the vest and the collar and everything. It's a nice, slightly off-white. It's not a bright, bright white. It's really well done. The buttons down the front of the vest. Again, the collar on the tuxedo jacket and her face. It's a really, really pretty figure. Well sculpted, very well painted, no crossed eyes, nothing like that. It's an attractive looking figure, which is a really hard thing to pull off on a figure of this scale. The bad, and you could argue that this is kind of nitpicky, but she does lose points in this category a little bit for me. The tuxedo jacket vest section, there's some bleeding in there. You can see the white bleeds into the black of the jacket, so her waist isn't quite as hourglass figure-y as it should be because of that bleeding, so that's a minor nitpick. The bleeding sort of sucks. Also, the boots are plain. They're kind of, you know, it's nice that they're glossy. I like the heels and everything, but they could have done something a little bit more, maybe a zipper up the back or up the front, or some lacing, or something a little more interesting. Also, I wish that they would have given her some pantyhose like they did with Black Canary, or some fishnets or something. But the bare legs sort of detract a little bit from it, especially since in the comics she is usually wearing pantyhose or fishnets or something. Also, the hat detail is a little sloppy where her hair meets the hat. You can kind of see the glue, but it looks kind of ugly. That's a nitpick, though. You really don't see that unless you're looking really close. And finally, the biggest nitpick I have are her eyes. They're the wrong color. While they're beautifully painted and they look really, really good, they're not crossed. They're sort of a brown, and they should be a bluish. So that sort of loses some points there, too. The absolute weakest point on the figure is, say it with me, the wand. That's right, it is the weakest point. You do not want to bend it. It will break very easily. It's almost paper thin. Also, you gotta watch out for the tails on the tuxedo jacket. They are sort of fragile. You do not want to pick her up by those, otherwise they probably will, at the very least, bend. Overall, I really do like her. Please don't misunderstand. I think the outfit is just a little bit on the plain side, but all the little details really more than make up for it. Love the wand, love the pose, love the tipping of the hat, and she's a very attractive figure. Not to mention, it's always nice to have another lady in the league. She really looks good on the shelf with the rest of the Justice League members. So if you're a fan of this character from the Batman cartoon shows, or the Justice League, or the Brave and the Bold, or whatever else you've seen her on, I think it's a great figure to pick up and add to your collection. And yeah, I really do recommend her. Good, not great, but very, very good. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of issue number 57, Zatanna. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in the line, issue number 58. We're going back into villain territory, ladies and gentlemen. It's time, finally, for another bad guy, another one of Batman's rogues gallery, go figure. And yeah, one of the most cold-hearted villains in all of the DC universe, so please stay tuned for that. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka J to his friends. Thanks for watching.